Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace, reporting live here at La Page Rouge here in New York City. Tonight, blessing the band stage is pianist and composer and band leader Aaron Parks. Now tonight, he's taking a break from his trio to perform music with his new ensemble and music from his brand new record, Little Big, which is now on the Rope-A-Dope Records imprint. Now, for over the last 20 years, Aaron has played with a myriad of musicians, ranging from the great Kirk Rosenwinkel to the great Terrence Blanchard and Gretchen Pilato. And tonight I had a chance to sit down to break bread with him, talk about this brand new album, talk about the electric as well as the free side of this music, as well as talk about the art of composing and how he finds playing with different musicians helps him to expand his knowledge as well as his world as a musician and composer. Brian, congratulations on Little Big. In fact, the last time we broke bread, I think when I turned the camera off, you were telling me about this book. And this was the book that is one of Wayne Shorter's favorite books also.
Yeah, Little Big, by John Crowley. Man, it's good to see you again, Brian. Yeah, and yeah, that's the name of one of my favorite books, and it also became the name of this band. Yeah.
Tell me how we go from the book to the band, because the last time we talked, you were doing the trio project with Billy Hart.
Yeah, sure. Well, I love that trio project with Billy Hart as well, and we've got the Vanguard coming up next year in September. So that music is never that far from my mind either. How we get from the book to the band, it's more, it's definitely not a straight line. I think that I wouldn't say that it's anything like a direct soundtrack to that book or anything like that. I'd say that this band is considerably more electronic and rocking out in its aesthetics than that book particularly is. But I think the thing that I'm after is that sense of creating almost like an alternate world that exists side by side with our own. And the book does a great job of that. And that's trying to create that space, giving space to the listener to fall into that world. That's what this band is really about.
Now, Aaron, writing is one of your strongest next to your composing and playing. How is it that you write for different ensembles, especially writing for this group?
Oh, let's see. I mean, I think I just well, it's hard. The songs sort of tell me what to do, and I think over time I write songs and then they find the ensembles that they belong to. I haven't, since this is a relatively new band, I haven't written a ton of songs that are writing for this band yet, although I intend to. A lot of the songs here are songs that I had written that I realized they needed a very specific group of musicians to really bring them to life in the right kind of way. Guys who were as in love with songs and melody and texture and understatement, leaving space for the listener to dream for themselves rather than filling up all the space with notes. And that's one of the things that I really feel lucky to have found the guys in this band. Greg Tuohey on guitar really understands texture, knows how to play a melody in a way that I believe it. Tommy Crane on drums, he was an old friend of mine. We met when we were like 15 or 16, played together a trio many years ago with Matt Brewer. He has such an understanding of all sorts of different types of grooves that are from, different genres of music than straight ahead jazz. And he has a way of playing them, but in a way that never feels like a drum machine. It always feels very alive and fluid. And the bass player, David Ginyard, he was the most recent addition to the band. He was the guy that when we found him, we were like, okay, that just makes everything work. He understands the architecture of songs and knows how to come up with the parts that I didn't even know were needed, but then became integral, while at the same time still feeling like it has an improvisatorial, a very like not making a big deal of it kind of approach. And so, I mean, that's the thing that I'm really interested in, where you can't really exactly tell where the compositions end and the improvisation begins. And all these guys really excel at that.
The thing about the lineage of this music is very interesting. When I look at guys and dissect parts of history, guys like Herbie and Chick Corea, and even you and Robert Glasper, you guys have gone straight ahead with the traditional trio, and you've also done the electronic. And I think what's very important is that you communicate your music in both worlds, and that's pretty hard to do.
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to play things that sound good to me, and and I think that's the same for Robert. It's like, it's not for, I don't think in any way it's like trying to get over. we're just interested in a lot of different things and trying to be authentic in pursuing them and trying to make the best music that we can.
What is the most important thing that you want to leave with this band? Because, you know, one of the things that I identify you with is, especially with your debut record, your musicians have always been the crux of what makes you get down.
Yeah, man. I mean, the impression I want to leave with this record, I don't know, man. It's just melody and groove, and this is a band which really is just about trying to create an atmosphere where you're allowed to feel good, you know, and not trying to do anything particularly clever. You know, although there are some tricky things, there's one tune which happens to be in 39. You know, I didn't mean that to happen, but it happened. But that's what felt good to me, you know? And I don't know, man. It's just I with this band, I feel like we're still at the beginning. You know, there's still so much to explore with this texture. I'm so interested in, you know, as anybody who's followed my musical trajectory has noticed, I have this thing with the guitar. I play with so many guitar players. I've, you know, Mike Moreno on that Blue Note record, Invisible Cinema. Working with Kurt Rosenwinkel for many years, working with Lage Lund, with Gilad Hexelman in Superoctave, with Nierfelder. Man, there's many more. And
Guitar has been really, you're right, it has been one of the strongest languages in your music.
I'm just drawn to that sound, and there's something that makes some of the melodies for me, I'm just like, it doesn't sound right unless it's the guitar playing them.
Kurt Rosenwinkel, I mean, this relationship has gone on for 15 years now, about?
Good, maybe 13, 14? Yeah, I think the first time we played together was maybe like the end of 2005, something like that.
Yeah.
A tour with Eric Harland in Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we played again earlier this year at the Vanguard for the first time in like 3 years. Kurt's my brother, and one of my just a huge inspiration on so many levels. Some, you know, compositionally, harmonically, just really emotional music making.
Is Kurt one of these spirits that forces you to work and strive a little harder, or is he one of those spirits that just, okay, we're going to take it as it comes?
Ooh. Kurt definitely inspires me to push beyond my comfort zone. He has specific things as a composer that he wants out of his music. And so coming from Terence Blanchard's band, which is, you know, I played in his band before playing with Kurt, Terence was all about the exploration and the freedom and try something different every time in that quintet/sextet that we had. And Kurt had very specific things in mind, and it was a bit of an adjustment for me. But I also started to really find the beauty of understanding what my role is and playing that in a way that felt alive rather than just going through the motions of it, of like, oh, you want me to play exactly this? Okay, here you go. It's more like understanding what it is as a song, what it needs as a song, loving that, and delivering that while at the same time finding little ways to take it beyond what's on the page and try to find my own way, my own perspective on it.
You know, where you are musically, you're 30, 34, almost 35.
I am 35.
Oh, you are 35, okay. Now, where you are musically, when you listen to Invisible Cinema or the last project you did, are there some things that you could have done better, or some things that you are very, very proud about? Because I know that I've interviewed many, many musicians. They tell me that, oh man, I was at a certain part of my life. I wish I. Where are you now musically, going back, listening to some of the projects you recorded?
Oh man, you know, I love them for what they are, and I accept them as a document of that time. I stand behind a lot of the compositions on Invisible Cinema, and I think everybody else on that record plays great. I listen to my own playing and I kind of cringe a little bit because just some of the decision making at the time sounds like a 24-year-old to me. And I'm, you know, on the other hand, there's certain things that I do on that, in certain places on that record that I'm like, wow, that was kind of cool. There's still something, you know, there's something to learn from your past, and there's, you know, and you can also find the things that you want to move past. And not, yeah, I don't know, man. It's, I look back at it and I'm proud of it, but I'm also, you know, I've got some distance from it at this point. I like the tunes though, so.
this point in your life at 35, what are some of the things that you're doing now to perfect your piano playing, and what are some of the things that you're doing now to perfect your composing? And also, I hate to ask you this because this is a triple barrel question.
Okay.
What are you doing as far as leading the band, as far as putting the music together with the musicians, but also on the business side?
Well, let's see. I mean, yeah, that's a lot. But piano playing, I'm always working on different things. I'm in a phase right now where the thing I'm most focused on is composing new music, both for the trio with Ben and Billy and for this band now. Now that we've made this record, I've got a number of songs that are ready for the next one, but I'm also like, now that I know kind of a little bit more about what we do, having made this first record and taken it on the road, I understand where are some areas that we haven't yet explored, where there's some room for growth, how I can use the strengths of these musicians and showcase them in even better ways, and also create spaces for myself to open up and have more room to improvise as well within this context. I think right now I'm in more of a compositional phase. I go through phases. Sometimes I'm in very much the piano player mode, and right now I'm in the composer mode quite a bit more. And I've got a lot of ideas and just trying to piece them together and figure out how they flow best, how to tell the story correctly.
Leading the band, you've done a couple of variations, including tonight with people watching. Do you encourage people to go somewhere and just isolate their ideas to put them into conception, or do you suggest that you work with some musicians and put the ideas together as you're working with the musicians?
The latter, for sure. I mean, I think there's room for both parts of that process. I think that I spend a lot of time by myself coming up with ideas that get me to a certain point, but it's only once I start working with other musicians that I really find out what the potential of them is. And sometimes it's things that I thought I knew that I needed. I learn very quickly that, oh wow, that's not what it needed at all. And working with other creative, brilliant human beings, and learning how to be unattached to what you thought you needed, and being open. I think that's key. That's really key. And I definitely am trying to do that. And then even if it does end up being kind of close to the idea that I originally had, spending the time as a band, like really rehearsing it, playing it a bunch of times until it starts to just feel like breathing and walking and talking, rather than guys just reading sheets,
Miles kind of did that with Bitches Brew, and really a lot of the electric stuff that he did. He wrote some ideas, but I guess when they got into the studio, he was like, okay, this is how we're going to go with this. You go with it.
Yeah, sure. That's great, man. And there were, one of the tunes on this record was definitely like that. I had a starting point. It happens to be the one that I mentioned earlier that is in, I hate mentioning times, it's in 39, Professor Strangeweather is the name of that one. And all I had was a bass line. I had a bass line, and I thought I knew what I wanted for a drum groove. Tommy proved me wrong. He found a much better groove than the one that I had originally come up with. And we just improvised everything from there and put together, and then after recording it all, we pieced it together in the editing room and made a form out of it. And now we play it live, and that's super fun as well. Like having used the studio as a tool and then building on that and then taking that into the live performance setting.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace, reporting live here at Le Pochon Rouge here in New York City. I'd like to personally thank the incomparable David Ferrales for his time. Make sure you go out and buy his latest recording, which is on ECM Records, which is now available on iTunes as well as Amazon.com. I'd like to personally thank the staff and management here at La Pasha Rouge for their warm hospitality. As always, please visit my website, www.thepacereport.com, for my weekly column as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.